Veterans of the channel will probably find the name Lio Convoy to be somewhat familiar, as I've mentioned them and their Discord server, known as The Senate, multiple times during my coverage of different people. Those who are new here probably heard about him due to the less than savory actions of his and the people around him coming to the surface, a number of which I wouldn't have condoned had I been aware of them when we were acquainted. But for those of you who have yet to hear about this person, allow me to explain. Lio Convoy, not to be confused with the Transformer character of the same name, is a self-proclaimed toy reviewer who covers multiple aspects of things such as Thundercats, Transformers, and other similar media. Looking at his video catalog, you might notice multiple videos scattered around in which Lio attempts to hold people accountable for their actions in a Bloodsports-esque fashion. Discord calls where he would argue with the person, sometimes while a crowd of 100 at most spectated and occasionally chimed in. This is because Lio also carries himself as a predator hunter, or at least he used to before his recent retirement, yet he'll still have Discord calls in a similar manner but now with the goal of conflict resolution. There have been multiple videos recently where other content creators have gone through the voice calls Lio had in the Senate, both in the past as well as more recently in his new server known as the Cat's Lair, a server that's functionally not too different from the now defunct Senate. And while it's great these videos are putting more eyes on the questionable actions of Lio and his newer associates, there's yet to really be a comprehensive review going through it all. This is most likely due to Lio's more recent endeavors tying him to the ACC, or the art commentary community. And anyone who's familiar with the art commentary community knows just how taxing it is to chronicle any situation that unfolds here. And not only does it feel like every drama or conflict in this group stems off of one another, but those conflicts can range from using offensive British slang to domestic assault charges to whatever in the unholy fuck Creepshow Art was getting up to. While I plan on attempting to make said comprehensive video documenting Lio's history, both before and after involving himself with the ACC, this obviously is not that video, as there is an elephant in the room I want to kindly put down before I go on to do so. The elephant being my own involvement with Lio in the Senate. Now, in the grand scheme of things, my involvement with the Senate isn't really anything more than a side story. So if you're trying to find the final nail in Lio's coffin, this probably isn't going to be it. I mean, truth be told, it's likely he'll nail it in himself. I've had my interactions with Lio, although I never had any moderator position or anything too significant while in the Senate. Regardless, my own history of being involved with the group over the span of a few years would certainly be enough to raise some eyebrows. I figured I'd use this video to address my own involvement and give my thoughts on my time interacting with Lio and the Senate, as to not bog down that upcoming comprehensive project playing defense for myself. So with that being said, I think I laid on enough of a preamble here. Let's just get into things. My first introduction to the Senate would be through another familiar name on the channel, Coyote Lovely. For those who don't know, Coyote Lovely was another furry commentator on YouTube. We were friends for a few years before he would be outed for flirting with Hypnotist Sappho in an attempt to gather information about them. We'll talk more on that later, but back in November of 2021, I would have a run-in with someone by the name of Khord Kitty. On an old video of mine going over the cum pizza of BLFC, I would mention Khord on screen for a total of around 5 seconds. This led to Khord trying to join my Discord server, telling some of my past mods he'd sue me for defamation before they banned him, all while I was asleep. Khord wouldn't stop trying to reach me though, as he would then go through Coyote's Discord server to talk with him about it, which resulted in the outburst veterans of the channel are all too familiar with.
It's really simple. I'm starting to date. I have 2 kids who have a well, I mean it's really simple as that. I'm trying to date, and guess what? No one's gonna ever want to date me if they see a video that insinuates that I broke the law. I've led lots of my friends going like, "Oh my God, what did you do? What did you do?" It's like, I'm not sure. So it's making it impossible for me to date if there's this sort of stuff going around. It's really simple.
Are you trying to sue somebody because they made a video talking about you for presumably libel because it might impact your dating life?
Well, that's one ulterior
So I'm
motive.
lying because you
Cherry, hold on a minute. Hold on a minute, Cherry.
Hold the fuck up.
Cherry, it is not liable. I resent that. Libel's written, slander is spoken.
So it's slander because you can't get your dick wet. was written in the fucking tweet. It's libel,
Are you
bro.
serious?
We're not laughing about the fact that you want to get laid or you want companionship. We're laughing about the person who does the most damage to that possibility is you.
No, it's
and
not.
you
It's
are
Benji, because Benji actually put on something online that has made a lot of people think that I did a crime. Guess what? I did not do any fucking crime. And guess what? I will sue him if he wants to put something online that says that I have done a crime. It's really simple. If you put on something online that says I have done a crime, guess what? I will sue you. That's exactly what's going to happen. So why do you keep talking over me when I'm actually trying to say a complete sentence?
Silly rabbit.
You listen at all. Any of you listen at all to a single word that I'm saying, but you can't listen to a single word that I'm saying because you don't know how to listen. You don't know how to listen. You're actually talking over me when I'm saying something because you don't care that I'm going to sue Benji's ass.
So you are.
What are you gonna get out of that?
I'm going to do everything humanly possible to find Benji's information because I'm going to hire a private investigator. And when the private investigator does some research, maybe they're not going to come up with anything. Maybe they won't come up with anything. But whatever happens, I am talking over you, and you will listen when I talk. It's really simple.
Oh yeah, you're right.
I have Benji's information.
How did that work out for you?
Hold on, Coyote, let me do my
fucking
review.
God.
Alright, I muted him.
You are children. You're all children doing children's games, saying children's insults, talking about
Goo goo gaga, motherfucker.
Shut
Can I
up.
get a word in edgewise, please?
What?
sense.
Sure, Leo.
What the fuck is
I need to get a word in
happening?
edgewise.
Pathetic troll.
Fun.
All pathetic.
As you heard there for a moment, Lio was on the call with us when this occurred, so it shouldn't come as a shock that after khord left Coyote's Discord server, there would be a call in the Senate between Lio and khord, Coyote inviting me and a couple of my friends to watch along in the peanut gallery. While I don't have a recording of those two Senate calls, my ordeal with Khord Kitty would be what involved me with the Senate and introduced me to the content of Lio Convoy. Now, you're probably wondering what happened after the fact. After my feud with khord died down, what did I do in the Senate? Well, fuck all, honestly. Throughout 2022, I essentially just lurked in the Senate, occasionally dropping a link to a new upload of mine in the Content Showcase channel. I hopped in maybe 1 or 2 voice calls to listen in, but didn't speak, one being a call they would have with the user Danderwolf. But outside of that, I hardly interacted with the server. I wouldn't begin to truly interact with the Senate until the person who introduced me to it would find themselves getting ousted from the group. February 25th, 2023, the day Coyote would hop on to a livestream with Cass Warfox. Cass Warfox being an ex-furry drama live streamer that later became a gaming VTuber when their own group known as the Fox Mafia would later begin to crumble apart due to their own heinous actions. But we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves. On February 25th, 2023, Cass Warfox would host a stream going over a gay op Coyote was heading against a known pedozoo, Hypnotist Sappho. The same pedozoo who gathered a campaign to have him deplatformed, threatened to firebomb his home, and listed him by name in their suicide note when they would attempt to keep themselves safe in a hospital parking lot. Regardless of my views on the stream as a whole, the information presented in this stream would certainly get the ball rolling, with it later being revealed that Coyote was not only flirting with Sappho under the guise of getting information, but commissioning furry porn between the both of them to keep that charade going.
On the 15th of December, Alex and Coyote got together to commission NSFW art of Coyote and Sappho Sonas for, well, no reason as far as I can tell. We'll just add it to the Coyote did it for the Wank Bank file.
Depending on how long this op goes, I might have to get more art. God save me.
I would upload a video on March 17th in which I went through Cass's livestream, criticizing both Coyote's actions during it, as well as the quality of the stream itself. While this stream was the beginning of the end for Coyote, to say it went off without any glaring issues just wouldn't be true. So I made my gripes known in my video talking about it. Gripes that Cass and his group didn't really take kindly to.
On top of this, Cass also went on to explain why he had a problem with Coyote deciding to make a video instead of joining him on the livestream.
So, what happened was, when I said fine, he decided to say that he was going to make a video instead of joining the live stream. Now, I need to bring this up. Now, real quick. So when you go to a live stream, you have to remember that the whole point of having a conversation on a live stream is so that you, the audience, and the people involved get to talk to each other 101 without scripts. If you're going to do streams, that's the point. That's the reason I do these interviews and debates. Because any fucking retard can sit there on a fucking video scripting whatever they could say and whatever he wants. Let's see.
I would like to answer your question, Yodi, on how it would have ruined the investigation. Dude, look, I'm gonna say this publicly. I have been involved with law enforcement my entire
stop right there. I don't give a shit. Cass, why don't you show me what you got?
All right.
So this is. Oh, you don't care, dude? You can't SWAT somebody and expect to have a fucking warrant pop out of your ass.
I didn't SWAT anybody, so why don't you fucking kill yourself?
It doesn't matter if you swatted them or not. That's
Coyote.
not the point.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
All right, everyone,
shut the fuck up, you uptight hole.
Their disapproval of my coverage results in them approaching me in a Discord server of a shared friend the day after my upload. At first, the call was made because I refused to ban Coyote's at-the-time boyfriend from my server, just based on word of mouth alone. But it soon devolved into Cass and friends confronting me because not only did I criticize the mosh pit style interview the livestream consisted of, but because Cass felt the need to stroke his ego and claim that he was above us commentary channels.
Granted, I don't feel apologetic for what I did. I thought it was necessary because I knew that no one's going to talk about this until there was consequences. I've already tried the peaceful method a whole last week. And look where it got us. So, this is how I see it. I don't have any misgivings per se with you. But I flat out don't trust you. I flat out don't trust any of these commentary spurgs that talk to Coyote. I don't trust Senate. And if given the opportunity, if I figured out I'm being lied again at any point in the future, if I see another shit show involving any of your names tied to yet another Yote, I'll make sure to clean the board from all of you. Every single fucking one. Because something...
made that clear during the live stream, yeah?
Yes. I'm making it clear again. Because this shit's been going on, and I'm gonna be honest, a lot of weird shit's been going on with you people. Even the Kiwis are acknowledging that. Verbatim. That's a bad sign. Really bad sign. When even the Kiwis happen to apparently kind of agree with that take.
There isn't really a need for me to go into further context with this call in particular, but I did link them in the description so you can watch them in full for yourself if you want to. The reason I'm mentioning this is solely to lead into March of 2023, a month where I was far, far from my peak performance. I was a depressed, spineless bastard, to put it lightly. I'm not mentioning this past disposition of mine to garner some form of sympathy. I've already self-loathed about this era enough. I mention it solely as an explanation as to why I acted, or more fittingly didn't act, on things during this time, as well as why I sounded seconds away from death in some of these calls. So, mid-March of 2023 was around the time Cass and members of the Fox Mafia were running rampant in my server. Initially raising hell, but this later simmered down to them talking about Lio and Hopeless Peaches. Oh, right. Hopeless Peaches was a prominent member of the art commentary community, most familiar with them due to their conflicts with others in the ACC, such as Prismmate Luke and Creepshow Art. Sometime after that drama subsided, Peaches found themselves interacting with Lio, at one point joining Lio's found family, a group consisting of people Lio claims he adopted, this meaning taking them out of dangerous situations throughout his time predator hunting, with Peaches being the most recent and last inclusion to the dynamic. Peaches uploaded on April 4th going over Coyote Lovely and just how deep their gay op went. As they did so, Peaches would also give their own criticism towards the Fox Mafia's handling of the situation, being a lot more blunt with their disapproval.
During the time Sakala was being outed, Predator Hunter YouTuber Cass Warfox made a stream on the 23rd of November. In this stream, Cass had people like Coyote Lovely, Pizza, and, well, Sakalo on a call to get information from him and to essentially drag him publicly. In it, the aforementioned Predator that Coyote Lovely had called out, Hypnotist Sappho, joins the stream to discuss how Sakalo did an op on her. Cass brings up Sappho's 14-year-old boyfriend Zachary, and Sappho responds in such a weird way. Like, yeah, get used to the way she speaks.
So I need to ask this because this keeps getting spammed out in the chat right now. Was this about you dating a 14-year-old?
Oh, right, yeah. No, we do some trolling on Twitter.
What do you mean you just control it?
Okay, so okay, yeah, so I've made a lot of very, very rough jokes and not so rough jokes. And, I've went around and I've talked about how, dating isn't a legal term, like it's not illegal to date anybody. So I am like, I do talk to somebody that happens to be, younger than I am. But it's really super platonic. And I know, it's still like, oh, you're still a predator. That's still predatory.
Well,
I get it.
It's mostly at this point, it's just your history.
Seriously, what is it with this trend of commentary morons interviewing predators as if they're interviewing their favorite celebrity? Like, it isn't a fucking tea party. Like, get rid of it. It's scum. You can be mean to it. Bully it. Have fun. Never mind Cass being civil, this is next level. I just can't get over how Coyote is being friendly with a notorious dog diddler and child predator because he's too busy being mad at Zakolo. What, you gotta start being friends with Zakolo too once someone else shows up? Do you know how to block? Why is that not an option? Oh, it's so hard to make my really bare bones video on Zakolo. All this lack of evidence I'm showing is really tiring me out. I just don't have the energy to be disturbed by zoos and predators. Fuck off, dude. Like, God, what a response. How did nobody on this stream think to probe into this further when something this outrageous was said? Bloodsport's my arse. All of these people, some of whom worked on the very Kiwi farm thread that exposed Coyote later, were present at the time and just didn't address this. Amazing. Brilliant. Proud of everyone here. I guess if someone did pay attention to this stream and ask the appropriate questions, what would be later revealed wouldn't have been such an earth-shattering revelation.
Just like my own, Cass didn't take very kindly to the critique, using my server along with his own to peddle a rumor that Lio and Peach's found family dynamic was a lot more intimate than they let on. All this was relatively tame in my own server, amounting to high school gossip at most. In Cass's own server, however, things were a lot more graphic. Members of his own group basically writing short fanfictions about Lio getting non-consensual with Peaches, an example of which visible through a member of Cass's posse named Fursky Doodle.
Like, what he got is fucking, like, ass gaped and torn asunder by fucking Lio Man's giant, like, throbbing white barbed lion. And Peaches, I really hope, like, fucking Daddy Lio bends you over his knee for, like, the stupid shit you just pulled. Because I can't wait to, like, fucking see the video. Because if a video gets made of, like, you getting your fucking ass, like, fucking gaped like Coyote Lovely did, oh, it's gonna be so great.
During this time, my server operated more akin to a safe harbor than it does now, moderation being a lot more lax in regards to the discussion of drama. So my moderators didn't really see much reason in limiting the discussion being held in my server about the Fox Mafia and the Senate, as there wasn't anything there that pushed a TOS or server rule-breaking boundary. However, the day Lio was planning to release a video going over the misdeeds of the Fox Mafia, he would send a message over Discord, telling me to join him for a call in the Senate. On April 16th, I would join a Senate call in which Lio and Peaches wanted to speak with me concerning Cass and his group, speculating about them both in my server. Even taking my depressed state into account, looking back at this call has been a struggle solely due to the pure secondhand embarrassment I get listening back to myself. How I allowed myself to slump to this point is beyond me, but enough stalling. Let's just get into the call.
Hold Good. You and I are going to have a conversation. Last time I talked to you, I was very polite and very kind. Kinder to you than Cass Warfox and his crew of degenerates were. I didn't come into your server and raise Cain. I didn't insult you. I didn't send slurs at you. I didn't threaten you. I gave you advice. I told you about the responsibility of a community. And that kindness, as well as giving you my personal information, so you could file a counter notification against Purple Yin, who was abusing the copyright system. And you repay this kindness with letting people be scumbags about my family in your server. And notice I'm not yelling right now. You have reached me at a very specific type of anger. You want to explain to me in detail why you think it's acceptable for you to allow people in your server to talk about my family in a sexual manner as though I am sexualizing these abuse victims? Before you say you don't know, you already acknowledged it in the live chat.
At the moment, I am somewhat aware of what you're referring to. I'm just trying to find it in the chat.
You can look for the word daddy first and foremost.
Yeah.
Then you can look at all the times they're trying to play pretend that I've looked the other way for pedophiles. Talking about how I have some sort of sick relationship with these people.
Lio brings up the favors he's done for me thus far. That being him giving me advice about how to go forward after the Coyote fallout, and giving me his personal information to counter a false copyright claim I received from a purple Yinba. You can go through my Dandewolf video for more information on that, but this is followed up with Lio asking why I believe it okay for members of my server to speculate the specifics of his found family situation. However, he paints it in a way that pushes the actions of Cass as a whole onto me, rather than his actions solely in my server. While I am at fault for allowing Cass to spread that rumor in a forum channel on my server, what Lio was describing here was done in Cass's server, not mine. The most severe these rumors became in my server were that the found family dynamic between Lio and Peaches was a kink between the two. The other people Lio adopted were never mentioned during this period in that manner. It was solely Lio and Peaches' relationship this rumor affected in my server, and that I am at fault for. But throughout this call, you'll notice that Lio and Peaches will instead opt to place full blame of Cass's actions onto myself, portraying me as being just as bad as him for not acting how they saw fit in regards to those rumors. Peaches being the worst of the two, as they would wrongly portray me as being complicit with the spreading of said rumors, simply because I talked in the channel of my server during this time period. I didn't lend credence to the rumors or anything similar. I simply texted in the channel while they were there.
What do you mean you have to look it up anyway? Like, you've been active in the chat while they've been talking about it. Otherwise, your response would have, otherwise your response would have been, "Oh shit, people have been doing that." Not, "Oh yeah, that."
Because I vaguely remember it being they were speculating about stuff like that.
Lago, do you have family members?
I do, yes.
Do you have a sister?
I do.
If I let people in this server speculate in the same manner about you and your sister these people do about me and my family, how would you feel?
I understand what Lio was attempting to get at with this question, but looking back at it, I feel it somewhat falls flat when my sister's a blood relative I was raised besides, and not some adult my parents adopted off the internet, but I digress.
I would feel rather disgusted, and you're very much
quadruple that. Quadruple that, because these are people I have taken in to take care of. I have never and never will do anything sexual with. These people have been abuse victims of that type of degenerate garbage, and you know that because I've told you that. And on top of that, I have told you before, if you've got an issue with me, take it up with me. So why am I seeing you speculate in these threads talking about me instead of being a grown man and coming to me about it? Because you didn't even have the decency to come tell me what was going on.
This is Lio misrepresenting what my speculation was. My speculation was in regards to the situation surrounding Coyote and how both sides were handling it, not his found family, as I was already aware of the life arrangement before Peaches joined it. Although I personally found the concept of taking in adults over the internet as your found family kinda weird, I didn't say so at this point, as I was under the impression he did so to take these people out of abusive households.
I understand, and I take full responsibility for that. The only
Do
thing
you?
is I did...
Or are you going to let Cass's crew of degenerates, literal degenerates, because let me go ahead and give you a TLDR spoiler for the video. Gilded Poo owns terabytes of bestiality porn, and Cass is fine with it. Heisuke has gone to baby firm or diaper firm meetups, and Seti sure likes to watch Balto getting dick down.
You don't even have to tell him that because Lago was actually in the conversation. in Lago's server where the person said, "Oh, you know, if we all got on top of people for being into feral, we'd all be banned from this server." So I think Lago already knows that. That was in the conversation, you know, when you were playing a feral game in Cass's server and someone mentioned it, and someone came in defense for you saying, "Well, if we held the same standards for everyone here, we'd all be banned."
This is another instance of Peaches changing details to paint me in a worse light, even managing to fumble doing that in the following sentence. The event they're describing occurred in Cass's server. While I was in the server for no more than a day, they would begin to discuss a previous video of mine where I went over furry games I found on Steam. Feral got brought up because of the game I played named Tailbound, where you can essentially have intercourse with any enemy or boss, some of which being feral animals. Cass and members of the Fox Mafia brought this up in what I can only assume was an attempt to paint me as being into feral porn, regardless of the fact I disavowed the game due to said content in my video covering it.
Although personally this moves more into the problematic side of things when a few enemies are on the feral side of things, with one of the starting bosses literally just being a giant wolf with his wang out the entire fight. The game itself is created quite well, I will say that, but it's parts like this that made playing through this a one and done deal for me. Would I recommend it? Not really. The feral alone already conflicts with my own morals, but combine that with the developer's morals being lackluster in some worrying places, and you have me unable to give my approval in good faith. For me, this is legit just the Fez situation all over again. Game was entertaining for the most part, just wish the dev didn't put a bad taste in my mouth, among other things.
This even getting me into a petty Twitter slap fight with the dev. But here you have Peaches, first attempting to say this occurred in my server, insinuating that I didn't ban people who were into feral porn from my server, but then they would change it to me playing the game in Cass's server, and someone there defending me playing it. Both of these are false, never mind me not knowing that this was said during that discussion, but it made me look worse, so fuck it, I guess.
I recall what you were talking about. They were talking about me talking about Tailbound in a video. I don't remember that being said though.
That's not even. That's just icing on this crap cake.
I mean, I do understand the main point you're trying to make here.
Do you just let anybody who bullies you a little bit run roughshod on your server?
I don't know.
You don't know. Whose server
No, I
is
don't.
that?
I don't.
You don't. Then why did Cass get special treatment and his crew?
They didn't.
They didn't. So you're fine with the thread then. You had no complaints about the thread then.
From what I can recall at the moment, no, I don't, other than them speculating about you and Peaches.
Oh, speculation. So how about I speculate on you sometime? Matter of fact, why don't I use your phone number you gave me and speculate on you? That wouldn't be right though, would it? That's not a threat. I want to be very clear on something.
I mean, it kinda was, let's be real, dude. And before you ask how he got my number, when he gave me his personal information for the counterclaim against Purple Yinba, he didn't give me his phone number, so I put in my own. Fun fact, this actually resulted in Lio sending me a dick pic. And by dick pic, of course I mean a picture of Dick Grayson. I put up with this. Why did I put up with this?
Why don't I use your phone number you gave me and speculate on you? That wouldn't be right though, would it? That's not a threat. I want to be very clear on something. There are lines you don't let your people cross. There are lines you don't let your people cross. I have one of them sitting there talking about pornography that's been made of me and my kids, which, by the way, I didn't ask for.
Look, hold on.
And I've been trying. Shut it. I am speaking.
Okay, so to save myself any further secondhand embarrassment, I'm just gonna start summarizing. You can find the full call in the description if you want it. Lio would continue on, bringing up situations where he helped me on certain things, only for me to silently allow Cass to allude to less than savory things about him and my server, presenting me to his server as someone who is unloyal to the people who help him.
I have been there between you and horrible people. Here, for Boyinba and other situations. And you repay that kindness. And for the record, I don't need it specifically repaid because that's not who I am. You made it very clear it doesn't matter if somebody puts their neck out for you, as long as you don't get grief in your server. So tell me, Lago, how do you plan on making amends for this? I'm curious.
Mind you, the only interactions we've had before Coyote shit the bucket was him helping me with the Purple Yinba situation and the call that was had with Khord Kitty. The two of us had no meaningful interactions outside of just that.
And I want you to be aware, nobody in this call has heard me so angry that I'm not yelling. You're the first.
And it certainly wouldn't be the last, but that's not a story for this video. Continuing onward, you would have more instances of Peaches being readily antagonistic towards me, oddly taking offense when I said that I would wait until Lio's video on the Fox Mafia premiered before deciding on how I take action regarding my server.
Well, at this moment, I'm not entirely sure. I was going to wait until the video premiered to see how to go on from that point forward.
I see.
Wait, hold on. So you need people to be called out publicly on YouTube because, ooh, woo, I've got a YouTube channel to actually care, but when people are doing it right in your face, you're just, like, laughing along with them?
No, I need the information to be presented.
It was in front of you, you fucking bellend. Like, it's not, you don't need to be told these people are zoos. You don't need to be told these people are into all this shit. You don't need to know that Gilded Poo's got a terabyte of porn. It's the fact that these people come into your server, dick with you, and you're too much of a pussy to say no, so they pretty much make it the Fox Mafia 2 and sit there in front of you because you join in, and they're all like, oh yeah, I bet Lio fucks his kids. But it's not even, like, in a concerned way, which you think that somebody like you who pretends to care about Predator stuff like that, if people are saying that, oh, Lio's, like, fucking with people and abusing them, you'd think, as someone like you, if you thought that that was okay to say, you'd then be concerned. But no, it's a joke, a laugh, because then Lio's kids are also seen as jokes. And you think that's fine.
So outside of that nonsensical ramble, according to Peaches, I didn't need to be told the members of the Fox Mafia were zoos, because I apparently knew, and they were being zoos right in front of me. When I didn't know, because that wasn't the case. And not only that, the person they refer to as a zoophile, Gilded Poo, he's not even a zoophile. But at this point, that hardly mattered to me, because even before this call, he was banned from my server for throwing around trans and racial slurs just to be edgy. But that hardly mattered to these two, as Peaches then moved the conversation into a new direction of why do I pretend to care about victims, accusing me of being a predator hunter, of which I'm not and never claimed to be, and insinuating that I used the stories of random victims for YouTube clout, before attacking my video going over Cass's livestream on Coyote, because it didn't do a job that it was never advertised to do.
So I want to ask you as one of the people who was talked about, why do you pretend to care? Why do you pretend to care about victims, and why do you LARP as a predator hunter or whatever the fuck you do?
Point of order, he's not ever said he's a predator hunter, but he has talked about predators.
He's talking about predators, that's what I mean. So you're a YouTuber, you talk about predators, yes?
I have talked about predators, yes.
Why do you do it? Because you clearly don't give a fuck about victims.
I don't want to say it's because I don't care about victims. I've gone on multiple times to say that I'm simply a person on the internet. I cover stories that I find interesting and talk about them on my YouTube channel.
Yeah,
I made that very clear for the longest time. I'm not a predator hunter.
Yeah, you're a clout chaser. You just do it for clout. That's why your whole Coyote video was about your fifis, right?
No, that's not why at all.
Then why do you talk about it? Do you think that, you know what, actually, I brought back the Coyote video, so let's talk about that, for instance, and see how far this clout chasing goes. You spoke about the Coyote situation. Do you think what Coyote did was wrong and morally reprehensible?
I do, yes.
Then why was it that your whole video was just talking about your fifis rather than actually seeing just how much he's dicked over victims?
The whole video wasn't about my opinion on the situation, although it was basically a video of me going over the live stream Cass had.
Yeah, it was your reaction to Cass's stream and how it hurt your fifis.
They would continue to ramble on aimlessly about how I do YouTube for clout before Lio chimed in with a line that I just can't not bring attention to. So, a lot of people, including myself, have been comparing Lio to another predator hunter that got publicly dragged recently by the name of Mama Max. While the comparison of the two predator hunters that have hardly done much other than create spectacles for their audience is pretty obvious, Hearing this part back kinda felt like a fucked up gag.
Lago, did your parents raise you to have any sort of real moral understanding of things?
Yes, they did.
All right. There's an old saying, let's see if you can complete it. All right? The fastest way for evil to win is for good men too.
I'm not familiar with that phrase now.
For good men to do nothing.
The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing.
And to finish this part up, Lio would go on a monologue about how the past week was a struggle for him, having to look through the Spectre tech situation, tangenting off about how there's no dirt on him, because at the end of the day, he has to answer to God.
You know, Lago, last week was a real struggle for me. I'm going to give you an in-depth why. Because I was handed information on a massive YouTuber who had in his possession child pornography. And I knew when I put that out, it was going to hurt a lot of people. A lot of them. Because a lot of people looked up to that dirtbag for whatever stupid reason. Mostly because they were children, I would imagine, when they first came out. But I still did it. It's still the right thing to do. And I was constantly worried that I was going to screw it up. Constantly. You don't seem to share that feeling at all when it comes to horrific things like this. You know how sick and tired I am of people who can do literally nothing else, because here's the truth of the matter, LagoVirt. There is no dirt on me. Wanna know why there's no dirt on me? Because I know at the end of existence, I have to answer to a just, righteous God. And I'm a lot more afraid of how he's going to respond to any furry, degenerate weirdos that are angry at me and are digging for dirt. That's why they have to manufacture it. Like they're trying to in your server. And they're in there turning the opinions of people based on conspiracy instead of fact. And that is not okay.
This little monologue would age about as poorly as you would expect. I'll be skipping over the other half of this call for this video, as the first half was about as constructive as this call got. The remainder of it is just more bitching and villainizing from Peaches, akin to previous Senate calls they partook in. And believe you me, I did and still do feel at fault for allowing Cass and his fuckwiz to spread rumors about the two on my grounds. I'm not retracting my apology for less, but when I say Peaches was bitching at me in this call, there is no hyperbole. They used their time in this call solely to present me as poorly as they can, and being the self-loathing people-pleaser I was during this period, I just stayed in the call and took that malicious disrespect.
Lago, I hope that I never see on your channel, well, I don't really pay attention to your channel anyway, but I hope I never see a video of yours show up on my feed ever about you talking about predators or anything like that again. Because people like you, people who do it just for clout, are the people who fuck things up.
I don't do it for clout. I make that very clear. I do it out of interest in what I cover.
No! Whatever it is, you do it for your own selfish reasons. You don't give a shit. Oh, I don't do it for clout. I do it because I personally find it interesting. I find the AdSense interesting. No, fuck off. If you find it interesting, watch a true crime documentary.
And it's that bitching that made their wrongdoing coming to light that much more cathartic to see later down the line. But we're not exactly there yet, so let's keep moving on. After the premiere of Lio's video on the Fox Mafia, Lio and members of the Senate would stage a raid on my Discord server. Only it wasn't a raid because I, in my disheveled state, invited them in at the behest of Lio. So the voice call with over 100 people technically wasn't a raid. During this call, Lio would talk to a handful of people involved with the Fox Mafia at this time. This call is linked in the description, as there isn't really anything of note for me to bring up in this 2-hour call, as a good chunk of it consisted of Senate members trying to force ex-Fox Mafia member Pizza to apologize to a user named Endo for telling them to sit on his face in an offhand retort. But from this point forward, my server would essentially just stay the same as it did before. only instead of speculation coming from the Fox Mafia, it came from Lio and several Senate members instead, as I continued to keep myself sandwiched in between their little Discord war. This would continue for some time until the start of May, where Lio and I would actually cut ties between the both of us. So there was a member of the Fox Mafia known as Neura. They were, and still presumably are, a very adamant crony of Cass Warfox. They were busy doing tricks on it like you wouldn't believe. And at some point in time, Neura would forge a multi-page, multi-fonted, multi-font-sized Google Doc with the main goal of calling out Lio Convoy. It was a pretty shit document, one that's since been laughed into oblivion. Lio would hold a livestream on May 6th where he went over the document, mostly just to mock it. As the livestream went on, members of the Fox Mafia would heckle Lio, telling them that the document had been updated, but he would refuse to check the updated version of the document.
No, nobody's mentioning an updated document other than, the chat here, which again, I'm not going to look at. Not going to look at it. Now, I know that you guys in Fox Mafia struggle with the word no, which is why Cass was begging to come into the Lago server, not related to the drama with me. He just wanted to ask other questions. When I was talking to North, so no, EA, 9. Now you've heard it in multiple languages. So hopefully you'll understand. I know consent's something you guys struggle with, but the answer is no. Because this isn't the only doc she's done. We're going to break up the other one. And yes, I know I have been told that they have updated the doc with a new doc. I don't care. You should have gotten it right the first time. And the updated doc isn't damning towards me either. I know apparently there's issues with Lago in it. So Lago can look over it, and then Lago and I can talk about it.
The updated section of the document was about me. Apparently, Neura and the other Fox Mafia members went through my personal Twitter account, digging through my following list and compiling a Google Doc of every suspicious artist I followed. The updated segment of the document would read as such. Hey Lio, here's a present for you. How about focusing your rage boner on LagoVirt? You know, the person that you bought your Senate members into their server and fully trusted them as your own bestie? Yeah, that person. Since he literally sees and follows heinous artists on Twitter, Feral, Cub, etc. for quite a very long time. You know Twitter doesn't have a filter, so here you go, since it's a million times worse than the Frisky shit. The Frisky shit they're referring to in this case being a member of the Fox Mafia who was mocked for the kinks on their F list. One of them being racism. So because of my Twitter follows, I'm worse than the bitch that gets off to racism. I guess that checks out. It continued, what happened to being thorough? Guess you didn't learn your lesson from Vitas or Carlo and Coyote, huh? When I first found out about this, I pretty quickly went through the list they provided and noticed that most of the artists they listed weren't here because they made or retweeted the content described. They were listed because their likes had that heinous content in them. So they were essentially using the likes of people I followed to smear me for a jab at Lio. And mind you, not my own Twitter likes, but Twitter likes of the artists I followed. Because of course I kept tabs on the likes of the more than 800 accounts I followed at this time. It also didn't help their case that one artist they listed as drawing Cub and Feral didn't draw that type of content, as well as having another artist listed solely because they drew macro. And no, not the Falco Lombardi pyrocynical kind of macro, mind you. Just men who are on the larger side of the scale. Out of the artists they listed, only one of them was actually of note, that being Daycad. In the past, I believe I unfollowed this artist after feral evolution porn they did popped up in my feed. Turns out that wasn't the case, cause even though they stopped appearing in my feed, apparently I still had them followed. Regardless, that wouldn't stop the Fox Mafia from taking this mistake of mine running, using past artwork they did of Tails to label me as someone who's into Cub, regardless of me not interacting with those pieces in any way. All in all, it was just a sloppily done attempt to paint me as a pedo to make Lao look bad, comparing me to the likes of Pedozu, Rizzler, Coyote Lovely, and whatever the fuck Sir Carlo is. And although Lao wouldn't go through the updated document on stream, he and other staff of the Senate would go into the follows of my personal Twitter so they could approach me on it themselves, choosing to do so in a private group chat rather than a public call. In this call, Lio would go through a list of the accounts I was following that they deemed suspicious. Compared to Neura, Lio and crew did manage to find a few more artists who actually did warrant an unfollowing. Although I did have my gripes with a few accounts they listed, such as one insinuating that I was getting off to gore memes, or a few other artists that were listed as drawing a canonically underage character, only to pull up their artwork and see that, yeah, I don't think they drew them as their canonical age. I just took notice of the accounts listed that posted or retweeted Feral and Cub, and unfollowed them accordingly. This only amounted to about 6 of the presumed 400 accounts they checked, as I was told they only went through about half of my following. Ultimately, I didn't really think too much of them auditing my follows. Since I'm not into Feral or Cub, I don't really find much issue with someone giving me a nudge and letting me know if someone I'm following posts that kind of stuff. That's all there is to it. But the more I thought back on this situation in particular, something occurred to me. Why was I sitting in that group chat explaining why I followed a handful of accounts to Lio and Peaches? Why did I let myself get into a situation where I felt I had to explain to a 30-something-year-old man and his e-daughter that I followed a Twitter artist because they draw big buff furry women? Regardless, the call would end with Lio basically disavowing and banning me from the Senate, the two of us cutting ties from this point forward. He would recommend I post a tweet addressing my Twitter following publicly, so I did just that. The replies pretty much giving a unanimous, damn, that's crazy. However, regardless of me tweeting this, I would still receive a few YouTube comments in regards to this drama, so I decided to address it in a video I've since unlisted and later privated, as I no longer stand by the video's more apologetic tone towards Lio and Peaches, given events that would occur afterwards. So, in the video I posted addressing my Twitter following, I used the clip of Lio talking about how there's no dirt on him as proof that we actually had the Senate call, where he got on me for what Cass and crew were saying about him in my server. If you were to check the comments section on that video, you'd see quite a lot of people commenting on that voice clip as well as Lio as a whole. It was pretty agreed upon that Lio and his Discord server were pretty hard to take seriously. A number of comments even clowning on me for doing so. I can only say this as an assumption, but I don't believe Lio took very kindly to people making these comments about him on my video. Because according to him, I intentionally clipped the audio of his rant without giving context, regardless of me giving the context of why the call happened and using that audio to show that yes, the call did in fact happen. Looking back, I think it tells you the kind of person Lio is to immediately assume I took that clip out of context to make him look worse, as he says this about a video where I essentially bent over backwards apologizing for what was said in my server. He would instead just tell me that my video didn't communicate the situation properly, and that my audience clearly didn't seem to understand, because they were making fun of him and how he spoke. Because God forbid people watching YouTube videos think for themselves. My viewers could only think he was cringe because I misrepresented him, because of course every viewer here is legally obligated to take my word as law. Right? Anyways, even after that interaction, I still believe the two of us were on amicable terms. I figured anything between the both of us would simply splinter off and I wouldn't have to deal with anything concerning Lio or the Senate going forward. That feeling would end up getting proven wrong. On September 10th, Hopeless Peaches would upload a tweet to their alternate Twitter that read, "I feel very vindicated about LagoVirt right now. I was saying months ago to drop that dude. Now one side, who likes being around him, is at war with another side, who chose to babysit him. And I'm sat back like, what a lovely person." Another user would ask what info came out about me, to which Peaches would stress the truth of what occurred, bringing up the tailbound situation I explained earlier, saying I let creeps in my server talk about raping them for nearly 2 months straight, and that I follow Twitter artists who drew Feral and Molly. Seeing that Peaches had no issue maliciously changing details about what I did was enough to tell me that any amicable split there could have been was dead in the water. This was only further proven the next day, as Lio would regurgitate these same lies in the beginning of his second video talking about the Fox Mafia.
To move on, LagoVirt is a person who made a video on Coyote Lovely. His video focused less on the wrongdoings of Coyote and more on his feelings about Cass being too mean. Essentially, Lago's video is everything Cass claimed Hopeless Peach's video to be. That was strike one.
Just like Peaches in the past Senate call, Lio feels the need to attach a goal to my video that wasn't being aimed for. The objective of my video was to go over the livestream where Coyote fucked himself over. You know, as the title relayed.
Then, LagoVirt allowed Cass Warfox and his crew to come to his server for nearly 2 months to just spout nonsense about how they'd like to do certain things to Peaches because she criticized him for 80 seconds, or fantasize about me doing it. Strike 2.
As I explained before, there was nothing of the sort said in my server. That was all said in Cass's server without my knowledge. In my server, they speculated about their actions, their videos, and his found family arrangement with Peaches. Nothing more. Along with that, they also exaggerate the duration this happened. Cass and crew joined my server on March 18th, 2023, the day after I uploaded my Coyote video. I had the voice call with Lio and Peaches hours before his first video on Cass premiered on April 16th, and on that day I banned Cass and crew from my server. I don't think it's hard to tell that this time frame isn't exactly 2 months, given it just barely adds up to 1. The only reason I can think of them pushing this claim is that they're trying to frame it as if it happened since Coyote got outed back in February, regardless of Cass and cronies not being in my server until my March upload.
The final strike only had the chance of being struck due to me feeling the need to monitor what these dorks get up to. LagoVirt was caught following several Twitter accounts that posted feral and some lolicon. Unsurprising for a guy who paid money for a feral porn game, told the Fox Mafia about it, and didn't see an issue with a person responding like this. Strike 3. So is that it? Yeah, it seems so.
This is the most blatantly dishonest of the claims this duo would make, and it's one that personally confuses me given they hold themselves as people who do thorough research, handle situations with nuance, and expect people interacting with them to do the same even though they fail to reach their own bar. I hate getting into semantics as much as the next guy, but Lio states this as if I willingly followed those accounts for that specific content, following it up by saying I bought a feral porn game with no context as to why. He doesn't mention that he audited half my following and ran them by me, nor that I unfollowed the accounts when they were pointed out to me. He doesn't mention that the $5 game I bought was for the purpose of a video where I disavowed the title because of that content. Never mind the Twitter slap fight that caused or the fact that I told this to a past mod of his when asked. Never mind the fact I wasn't aware of that response until it was brought up to me in our Senate call. His entire framing of the situation is intentionally dishonest from start to finish, and the only reasoning I can muster as to why that is because my comment section hurt his feelings. And just like that, this was the end of any affiliation that was still present between the both of us. At this point, it was pretty safe to say that I was an idiot for thinking the words Lio Convoy and amicable could be placed anywhere near one another. So that's all there is in regards to my interactions with Lio Convoy. As you probably already knew, I didn't leave out of that community with the most positive view of the dude, and that view has only gotten worse with time. Looking back on my own interactions with Lio, the thing I find myself doing the most is wondering, why in the fuck did I take this middle-aged man seriously in the first place? And every time I wonder about that, I can't help but self-flagellate because depression and no spine are the only answer choices popping up. They certainly were prominent factors, but even then, this is a middle-aged man who claims to be a predator hunter, despite all he's done amounting to instigating arguments and mocking people with no real follow-up to accompany it. No predator has been caught due to him, and his actions only go on to show net negative results. Much like Mama Max, he's the epitome of why predator hunter content is faulty, and why creators such as him are undeserving of whatever platforms they're given. But unlike Mama Max, Lio has formed a cult of personality within the art commentary community. No matter how unethical or disastrous his actions are and will be, he'll have the hug box known as his Discord server to feed into his deranged delusions, the severity of which I plan to go into much later in the future. Because the longer this dude has gone on, the more any form of goodwill that could have been derived from his actions just seems to dissipate. With Hopeless Peaches fleeing the internet after accusations of her being involved in a Discord server where she and others were inappropriate around no minors, to old Senate calls resurfacing where she, Lio, and other members of the Senate verbally berated a mentally disabled woman because they couldn't get their hands on the child predator above them in a fucked up Discord's hierarchy, to more recently, where even though Lio claims he's working on bettering himself, he can be heard berating a trans woman over a Discord call who was hiding in their closet so their parents didn't hear the call between them, about how the people she hangs with, who just so happen to be against Lio, are allegedly transphobic, all while mentioning that he still had the number of her anti-LGBT father on standby. If you told me there was a Discord call where a Christian, mostly white, cis guy nearing his 40s was scolding a young trans adult, not just metaphorically but physically in the closet, about transphobia, all while he's seated at a McDonald's inside a Walmart, I would have told you that's a pretty good example of dark humor. But it's not exactly as funny to picture when that's word for word what he did. As I said at the start, Lio's history on this site is quite expansive. And even though I plan on going through it all in a future upload, it's going to take me some time to do so, and I hope the examples I just listed can give you an understanding as to why that is. But that's all from my side of the tracks for now. Be sure to like, subscribe, all that usual YouTube crap, and I'll be here cooking something up for you guys real soon. Stay safe out there.
Funding for this program was made possible by